Okay, my name is Miss Cheryl, and today we're going to look at the framework for ethical decision making. So, we're going to be looking at this book here. It's Media Ethics Issues and Cases. This a very easy to read book, and it's by Philip Patterson and Lee Wilkins. So, let's have a look at the book. And we're going to be looking at Bock's ethical decision making framework. So it was introduced in her book called Lying Moral Choices in Public and Private Life. So it's based on two premises. It believes that we must have empathy for the people involved in the decision making process. That's the first one. And the second one is based on the premise that we need to maintain social trust, and that social trust is a fundamental goal. So according to Cecilia Bock, there is three steps that we need to follow. So as I mentioned, do have a look at the book, Media Ethics and Cases. It's quite a good book and it's quite useful. And we're going to look at the first step. So first step talks about conscience. Okay, so how do you feel about the action that you are doing? Okay, when you're looking at ethical decisions, how do you feel about that action? Okay, when you make that action, how does it affect you? Okay, what does your conscience say about it? And secondly, seek expert advice means look at how other professionals, maybe philosophers, okay, other media practitioners, any experts in that particular area, how have they viewed the issue? All right, how can you achieve that goal without raising any ethical issues of what you're trying to do? All right, and this can be sourced by looking at philosophers, for example, people you respect in the industry. How have they tackled such situations? So that's the second step. The question you're going to ask is there any other professionally acceptable ways to achieve this action, okay, without raising ethical issues? This is the second one. Okay, and finally the third one would be, is it possible to conduct a public discussion to see the actors that are involved in this situation? So, say for example, you're talking about a news story that you want to run, and a source has given you some very valuable information, and that is the case we're going to look at this week. Okay, so say the source, sorry, not the cause. The source has come up with some very valuable information, but the story that is being given is that the person has resigned from the job, but actually it's because of some falsified information that has caused the resignation. All right. Will you still run the story, for example? So do you now sit down and have a public discussion with them? That's the third step that says you should have public discussion with all the actors involved. So we look at the source, we look at the public, maybe the readers, the publisher, the reporter themselves, and the person that is the subject of this decision, the director, for example, that has falsified certain information, and look at their views and what would they say. What kind of harm will come to each of these people? All right. So these are the three steps you're going to look into. So first one would be in terms of conscience. How do you feel about this action? Okay. Secondly, what do experts say about it? Okay. What is a what's the way, professional way to achieve this goal? Okay, without raising any ethical concerns, and looking at philosophers, for example. Okay, and finally, all right, look at creating a public discussion. And let's be honest, in an actual situation, it's not so easy for you to create a public discussion because sometimes you just need to run the story and you don't have time. So, in that case, when it's not something that allows you for such time, then you need to raise hypothetical questions. What if you were a reader? What if you were the source? What if you were the publisher? And you have to make a decision based on that. All right. Okay. Got it? Okay. So the three things, yeah. And it's based on the two assumptions that we discussed about earlier. So do have a look at this ethical decision framework and use that as a base in order to come up with the answers for this week's class and the discussion that I'm going to give you. I'll give you the case study in a short while. Let me read to you what the case study is about. Okay. So let's see. Okay, I'm going to read you something. Okay, I have the book here. What kind of news is fit to print and what is the justification of it? So the first one, In your community, the major charity is called United Way. So the annual fundraising event that is coming for this particular non-government organization called United Way. So at a late night meeting, certain issues transpired and the executive director resigns. It is not covered by any act. And through a source on the board, maybe you know somebody on the board through insider information, you've got some information stating that the director did not resign volun- on a volunteer basis. Okay, he has resigned due to some falsified documents. So what happened was the director had taken pay from the agency, okay, by submitting a falsified timesheet. So basically, the person is said that they were working during that time, but actually they were away for a funeral during that time. And when the organization investigated the absence, they found that the document had been falsified. And because of the lying, they have asked him to actually resign. And they had even brought up the fact that if he had asked, they would have given him paid leave to go for the funeral, but he didn't. Instead, he lied. So, because of that judgment of lying, they have all agreed that he should take the decision to resign. So, the company or the non government organization issued a statement saying that the executive director is resigning because he's got some new opportunities. Okay, remember the background of this situation is that United Way, which is the non government organization, will be running their annual fundraising dinner. So they're going to be collecting money for charity purposes to help needy mothers, for example. And if you break the story now, what are the consequences of that? What is the ethical grounds? What is it that you should look at as a reporter? And your source on the board, which is a friend of yours, told you that you should withhold the information and not report on it because it would cause damage to the annual fundraising dinner that is happening in a few weeks' time. But if you don't, how does that affect you as a reporter? You could possibly ruin the chance of this director having a future in other non-government organizations. You could ruin his career. You could ruin his image. But at the same time, will you also impact the fundraising that is going to happen in 2 weeks' time? So what I want you guys to do is, based on this case study, I want you to look at every step that Box Ethical Framework decision has given you. Okay, look at the 3 steps. Look at conscience. Okay, consult your conscience. Okay, and then look at what experts are saying about this issue. Okay, what is the decision? Uh, what is some alternatives you can look at? And if you attempt to have a public discussion, which is the final thing, what would be said if you didn't have time? What is the hypothetical scenarios that you can run? What would the reader say? What would the publisher say? What would the needy mother who needs that donation say if this were to impact the organization? So I want you guys to look at this particular case that I've just discussed and come up with your understanding, okay, based on that ethical framework of how you would decide what is the right action to take. All right. So for those of you who did not come to class today, I'm watching you. All right. Uh, please go through this. I haven't explained the entire class. I only explained box ethical framework. Okay. Look through the case that I've just discussed. Okay. Your only resource is this, so you have to watch this video. You have no choice. Okay. And please answer this case. Okay. This will make up part of your Blackboard blended learning for this week and is part of your assignment. Please follow the guidelines given. And if you have any other questions, please see me on Friday afternoon because I won't be here for consultation hours this week. All right, as I have an urgent matter to deal with. Okay, thank you.